I think we have a packed, well, our agenda just got a little
little lighter.
so maybe we can wait just a couple minutes.
Yeah, see if she's on her way.
So that removes all of,
4 and 5.
okay.
Keep on checking all my Amazon orders.
Stuck all my pens in the,
Is he ordering stuff?
Yes. Yeah. Can't figure out how to get my Amazon account to like unlink him and like not let him try things. Figure it out. Is that hay?
that sounds like rain.
Ooh, that is,
I'm like, is that hay?
That sounds like hail.
I just saw some.
You know she's not
Those poor
coming in.
kiddos playing soccer.
You know she's not coming in now.
Well, let's go ahead and get started, and we'll play catch up.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and open up the work session regarding our 2023 budget.
So we don't have a formal interest in this work session because we don't have one at our board meeting. And that's the whole show. So I'm just gonna, I did make copies of this for everyone. This is the work session packet. And the very first page or the item is the goals. And I'm just gonna give you the goals one more time. You know, if there's anything you'd like to add or change before the draft 2023 budget comes out, this is kind of the time. I mean, if you have comments later on and want to just email me, that's fine. I just want to make sure that there's nothing, nothing major that you'd like changed in this.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. That's 3 years old. I just always wear a watch.
Oh. Right now, we're just reviewing the goals, but I think
Oh, okay.
it's,
Okay,
I think it's,
I've already spent time doing that today.
yeah, I
I'm
think
good.
it's,
Yeah, I think we cover everything that we wanted to.
All right, well, like I said, we still have this work session time to go. Looks like it's gonna rain, so our ribbon cutting may be down to this work session, so. Our water rates, the rates are provided for single-family residents only. I decided not to get too complicated into all the commercial, multifamily, some of the other rates that we have out there. Because typically these are the most amount of customers that we have is residential. So in 2018, there's a rate study and the recommendation was implemented and the 2019 water base rate basically was increased by 10% to $28.88. And did review that rate study and it seemed to be very clear that after that 10%, there's going to be a 3% annual increase every year, which did not happen. So in other words, 2020 and 2021 continued that same rate. Granted, it was our pandemic and I was new and maybe there's some other issues out there, but these rates were not implemented. And then in 2022, this year, we went up to $30.32. So I'm going to shift you to the left side where the rate study is. The rate study, if we had done it as implemented, would have been, went to $29.74 in 2020, $30.63 in 2021, $30.54 in 2022, and then in 2023 would be $32.48. So I decided to do is take the 4-year average. What would have been the 4-year average in those water rates for a single residential? It would have been $31.09 for the base rate if you consider those 4 years, including the rate that was recommended in 2018. So then we go back over to the right-hand side, and I'm highly recommending that we go to 15%, and I know that seems like a really big jump. However, if you look at the 4-year average, it's still less over the 4 years than it would have been if you had actually implemented the rate increase as it was suggested.
Damn, it is dumping.
All this work is different.
Yeah.
Take my own example when speaking to the microphone. I wanted to give you both examples of 5% and the 15%. We're recommending 15% to at least start to catch us up to where we should have been based on the rate study. So I want to say that very clearly. I can now print out a rate summary sheet on a monthly basis, and I can really tell what these rates actually look like. As you may remember, the ERTs that we had before, it was a complicated, combobulated, difficult to understand because the ERT basically associated itself with extra water. So there was no clear understanding of what was excess water and what was a base rate. So it's much easier to figure out kind of where we are. And then I'm recommending that you change the excess water and sewer to 25% increase over 2022. And what that does, especially in your water fund and water resources, is going to encourage water conservation. I noticed on the 26th, and I'm sure tonight, there's probably sprinklers running. I know on the 26th of August, I got up and I was out walking my dogs, and I could hear sprinklers all over the neighborhood. And it was a really dreary, rainy day. In fact, it rained almost until about 1 o'clock that day. So people really aren't paying attention. It takes a simple turn off that sprinkler system. You monitor it a little bit, maybe every 4 days or whatever instead of every other day. So I think this would help basically reduce water usage.
I haven't watered my yard all summer.
Then the sewer rates are basically the same thing. I put down the same rate study. In the case of the sewer rate, they recommended a 10% for 2019, which was implemented, and then another 10% in 2021. I did verify with Jeremy today that I assumed that maybe that 2020 was supposed to be a 3%, but it wasn't. We looked at the rate study, and it's supposed to be 10% in 2019, 10% in 2021, and then a continued 3% change over the next couple of years. So if you look at the 4-year average, the 4-year average would have been $59.61. And then I'm recommending a 15% increase in the base, which over the 4-year period is still less for the average homeowner. They're paying over those 4 years $57.69. And even though it's a big increase, we got to catch up with where our reserves probably should be. And the same thing with the ERTs. The excess is much easier to read on a monthly basis. And also, the water or sewer rate excess will also be raised by 25%. The only thing that we're not changing is the excess for commercial, because they get charged for every gallon of water or every 1,000 gallons of water and every 1,000 gallons of sewer. I decided to leave that because we really have to have basically a 2-year study to kind of figure out where those are and how those are impacting our commercial businesses. So I decided to leave the excess, but the base itself would be increased that 15% that we're recommending. Just to kind of touch on garbage for GFL, I did not contact GFL. I decided just to read through their contract. Their contract specifies a 3.5% increase for 2021 and 2022, a 4% increase for 2023 and 2024. In my reading of the contract, it looks like they could have the ability to increase it 3.5%, 3.5%, and 4%. So, there's also a fuel escalation charge in there as well, or an increase in rates. And I was not going to go through the brain damage to figure out 4 years when it's really on an annual basis for fuel. And of course, fuel went way up earlier in the spring and has since decreased. So I just didn't think that was worth the brain damage to do that. But on top of that, the town was charging 10% admin fee on top of the rate that GFL was charging us. And therefore, then we were charging the customer the rate that we were paying plus 10%. The only thing is, for some reason, the extra cart was never charged that extra 10%. So I figured in basically all these extra increases plus the 10% that should have been charged on that extra cart for garbage pickup. Keep in mind, they must have a lot of garbage for 2 carts. Obviously, the bigger the family, the more garbage they're going to have. And then the mosquito control, their contract is very specific. Let me go back to GFL. GFL's contract was very stated that they had to come to the Board of Trustees with an increase recommended 90 days before January 1st. Well, they missed 2021 and 2022, and I have a feeling they probably will not miss 2023, but they could do this escalation all at once. So those are things you just need to have, keep in mind. And that means really probably about the end of September, 1st of October, we should see something. If we don't see anything, I guess we fly by. But we did get something in March of this year, and we just told them, you can take that increase back because you failed to meet your deadline. And then the mosquito control, their increase is in the contract. It doesn't require them to notify you. It's 2.5% annually for the time of that contract. So the rates in here, I've just kind of explained kind of the overview. So the rates in here basically would then follow that. So on page 1, the actual page 1 at the bottom, I wanted to kind of give you an idea of really what your expenditures are costing. So you have expenditures that are special types of expenditures, and they're itemized there. You have debt, labor, capital, and operating total. I took that total amount that we're estimating for 2023. I divided it by 1,214 taps by 12 months. So off to the far right is the amount per tap per month that the special fees are costing you. The debt total is costing you. The labor, the capital improvement, and the operating total. So if you'll get to that double black line, each tap is costing you $89.32 per tap per month. And then you go down to the revenue. So the base total is bringing in about, if it was at 5%, is bringing you in $36.45 per month per tap. And this is throwing in all tap sizes, so including commercial, multifamily, single residential. This is just kind of an average of all of those, basically taking information that we actually know now to be fairly accurate. And then the excess, so there are people that are paying more for water, so they're actually contributing $21.28 per tap per month. The water station fees, $5.15. the penalty, all of the penalty goes into the water fund. There may be penalties on sewer and garbage and mosquitoes, but we decided to put it all in the water fund because typically when you're going to shut off water or you're going to shut off their account, we're going to shut off water first. It's kind of hard to shut off sewer. And then the PIF, so the plant improvement fees. And you always want to make sure that your plant improvement fees, you know, if you didn't have any capital that you're expending, then you shouldn't be planning or to spend any of that, the plant improvement fees that are coming to the town. So if you go to the annual revenue per tap, you're making $71.01 per tap per month, and you have a loss of $18.30 per month per tap. So eventually you can see that your available reserves are going to cover some of this, but after 2023, you're going to start to decrease what you have to keep this up. Now this is at 5% increase on the base. And then the next page after that, page 2, which is at the blue at the bottom, is the sewer the same way. So in other words, the cost per tap per month is $154.66. Your annual revenue per tap is $121.54. You're losing more money per month per tap. And then your available reserve. So you can see that you're gonna run out of your available reserves faster in your sewer fund. And of course, you'll see that when the rate study said to raise it 10%, we're still not getting there really to where we should be. So I decided to kind of, you know, in that black box with the dotted lines, kind of give you an idea of in-town residential for 2022, what it would look like, and then for 2023. The pages that follow up to page 8 are basically what those increased fees will look like per item that we're looking at increasing. So you see all the residential on page 3, in-town sewer, in-town mosquito fee control, in-town garbage rates. And you flip over to the next page, again, see multifamily where we're changing those base fees. Commercial base fees, but not the excess. And so we're going to flip over to page 9, or 8, excuse me. And then this basically takes a 15% increase for the water fund. So instead of losing
18 something.
18, yep. $18.30 per tap per month, or you're losing $14.83 per tap per month. Now, you do have some capital improvements in the water fund that you believe that you've reviewed in the last couple of meetings. So there is always a reason that you can spend down reserves for capital. But you kind of got to be aware that you are spending down reserves and how far do you want to spend them down. And then the sewer fund on page 9 basically gives you that same information, and in the spot or the dash box at the very bottom gives you an idea. If I was a single family residential, that my base fees for 2022 are $106.22. And then in 2023 would be $120.78. But we're also losing less money in the sewer fund, in the reserves. And maybe there's a reason. I mean, we have the ARPA money. I tried to figure that into here, that there is some restricted reserves. So I call it unrestricted reserves regarding we're spending down that ARPA fund, so you will see your cash reserves and your sewer fund go down. I'm hoping this kind of gives you a visual, and of course then the next pages basically show you what that increase would be if it was at 15% for all those different accounts that we have. So I'm hoping that kind of gives you a visual of where I'm recommending these rates go. and your discussion about these rates, I decided to stay away from 10%, just go to 5, and then 15. I'm thinking that you may have to do another increase. You may have to do 5% in sewer to really get you up to where the rate study wanted you to get, and maybe water, maybe a gentler increase. Because it's a lot easier to figure out these fees, I think that if you continue with the fees 2022 and the full year of 2023, you do another rate study in 2024 and basically look at what your capital is, what your labor is, what these revenues are actually bringing in to fund the expenditures in your enterprise fund.
Remind me that I was through 2024 or?
It's 5 years,
Okay,
so it
5.
started last year, mid-year, so we're 4 years away.
Okay.
We seem to still be at a considerable
Yeah.
deficit on this.
Katie,
It is a deficit, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How does this compare to other municipalities? Like, are other municipalities this kind of in the red, or is this just something specific to us because we never did the increases? Or, like, I'm just trying to know, like, if we looked at other municipalities around there with what they're doing with their water and sewer, are they also kind of in the same situation that we are right now?
So your rate study is going to look very specifically at your cost, your labor, your capital needs. Our plant is not like Durango's or Ignacio's or Pagosa Springs. It's going to look very specifically at the capital that we have. And I know that this is a lot cheaper than Ignacio for water and sewer. Water and sewer is operated by the tribe, I believe. Treatment is. So I think that there's a lot of changes, but this rate study is actually looking specifically at our expenditures, our labor, our nutrient removal and everything else. And yes, we can look at other towns and other municipalities our size. I always say that when you're talking about a utility, the more users you have, the more your cost is spread out to more people. So it's hard to look at like Durango or Craig or Pagosa Springs has got a completely different system, so they're not even the same ballpark as the town of Bayfield.
Okay, I guess I was just thinking, are there others that are not exactly how much of a deficit do they have, but are there others who have deficits like this? Like, is this a common occurrence that you would have a deficit, or is this something that it's been steadily growing and it just never was addressed until we've started addressing it with the rate study?
So I've certainly been in other places where there were utilities, and I think that what happens is that the better information I can get to the board, the better information that you have utility operators and your directors can get this information to you, the more informed you are to make good decisions. And some of the places that I've been, I think that they've had, good information that was relevant. And I think that for some reason, and I can't speak to history, but they were afraid to raise rates. So from the history here, rates were not raised for a number of years.
We've only, I think since 2009, we've only raised them twice.
And it's typically common in the places that I worked, especially since 2009, that the rates had a inflationary provision to raise them so that they were covering the cost of goods.
So is there a way, because I don't like seeing this much red on our balance sheet in these areas. It just makes me nervous. And as we're trying to expand, it's just going to be more people. Yes, we're spreading it out, but it's going to just be more red to me. How can we adequately communicate to the residents who are on our water and sewer that, like, when I look at this, it looks like right now, if you do 15% versus 5%, the difference is gonna be about $8 per month per user, which I know we have programs in place where if you were unable to afford those types of things, you could do the LEAP or do those applications and whatnot. But I think again, I think it just comes down to education so that people understand, yes, rates hadn't been raised and that wasn't necessary. This is why we're kind of in the position that we're in now. It's because rates have not been raised and they should have been. And so now we have to play catch up. Like, I understand that, but when you're someone who's struggling to, you know, pay all your bills and your rent, and $8 is a lot more, then it just looks like, well, the town's raising rates and what are they doing? And it's just, I want to make sure that if we do this or we do any kind of increase, how are we, it's not just showing up on your bill. It's not in a newsletter that someone's not maybe reading. It's like, how do they know this is why? Like, there's a reason for this, and it's not, I mean, there's many things that we're kind of course correcting and it costs money, but this just seems pretty bad to me when I look at it.
And to go along with you, I mean, I didn't look at Ignacio's rates, but I have Durango's pulled up in front of me right now, and they're considerably lower than what you're proposing. So if, you know, we do something like this, there needs to be an understanding from our community that of why are ours so much higher, you know, than they are in Durango.
So less users. You can go to every
Right.
big city.
I'm not saying
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you have to explain it
Yeah.
to me, but I'm saying the communication to the
Yeah.
public would definitely need to be, you know, that needs to be explained. Why is it higher when theirs is considerably lower? Because they're not going to understand that
Yep.
piece of it.
So I think that what we found is that the person that gets hit with this the most is our front counter person, Jill Weber.
Right. Poor thing.
And this packet, not the first page or the goals, was passed out and staff went over that. And she said, you know, this is excellent information. It's a way for me to explain why it is the way it is and what we have to do to make sure we're raising these rates to basically cover these expenditures. And a lot of times, typically in the first page of my utility website, it talks about utility. Utility means more people, more users, less cost. So in other words, you're paying an A operator instead of 1,200 users paying for an A operator. You've got, you know, 1,500 or 2,000 or 3,000. So the thing is that those costs are covered. You know, more people are paying for that A operator or for that new filter or for whatever else. And so we try to explain that basically on the front page. The very first part, you know, we're a population of just a little over 2,800. We're not going to have the same rates as somebody that has a much bigger population that's paying and probably willing, you know, to pay different rates.
Well, and we have Melanie on here too, so maybe. Thank you, Melanie, for listening in. But yeah, I mean, that's what we keep talking about, is how we get this across. How do we,
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you
how do we
inform the public?
educate?
No, because no one's gonna pay attention until they see their bill.
Right.
And then the town's gonna get pounded with phone calls, or we're gonna get pounded with why, and it's like, this is why you
So-
pay attention to your local government, and this
Yeah.
is why you vote in elections, and this is why you kind of need to be a part of this, so that you understand we're not making these decisions without putting a lot of thought into it and how it's going to impact the residents.
And I think, you know, when she got this package, Jill said, you know, this is what I need. This is what I need to justify from customer to customer to customer. And sometimes you have to teach one at a time. I don't care what we put on Facebook, what we put online, what we put out in a newsletter, what anybody else prints out, when it really affects you. This is why your bill is what it is.
I think it would be helpful if I went to our website and looked at water service or water dock or sanitation or something like that, where that's where this is also really well defined. And I don't know how often we have been updating our website with that type of information, but I think if these are discussions we're having now and we know this is something that's going to be implemented as of January 2023, it'd be really great to start having, when we make these decisions, having that information available immediately, so that we're not like behind the eight ball January 1st when people start calling Jill or whoever, whatever other number they're gonna push on there to get someone to let them know that they're not happy with an $8 a month increase.
So I couldn't do anything before we actually changed the rates.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was confusing. Typically, even my interim positions, I could pull out my rate study and exactly know really what it was. When I got here, I couldn't make sense, heads or tails of anything. And so I thank you for changing, trusting us to change the rate structure. I know it was a lot of work on staff's side, but it helps now that we have really good information that we just didn't have before. So yes, I agree. In our website, we're still hoping it's soon.
Okay. No, I just think it'll just be helpful for all of us who are going to get questions when we're raising rates in many different places, or just the different changes that we're having. Again, I don't know how many people are reading the packets and are going through this like all of us are, and the people who show up to the meetings or show up on Zoom, but
I think
Again.
that's probably it, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
there's how many, 28,000 people in the town, and I don't even know. 2,800. And I don't even know how many that is with like the annexed in to be a part of some of these things, and that could be a lot of phone calls to Jill or to the town staff, and, yeah.
And we do want to make sure that developers are paying their way. Keep in mind that your plant investment fees, we raised by quite a bit, and there's another, minor increase in here basically for those. So we actually had a developer that had 8 lots, and they had the old price, and we're going to submit a check, and I'm like, well, by the way, it went from $6,000 to $9,900 because you're outside of town. So the question was, well, nobody told me. I'm like, well, we haven't heard from you for 18 months, so things have happened for our utility rates. So they're helping to pay their way for more capital. We're asking, developments to provide water or fees in lieu of.
For the increase in mosquito control, does the Vector agency, do they recommend also increasing the amount of service that's provided based on the amount of more mosquitoes that we've had recently? And, I mean, there's been, I think, 133 West Nile cases in Colorado, and I feel like there's been 3 deaths due to West Nile, and we have had West Nile in Bayfield, so I don't know if I know that's just a standard year-over-year increase, but I'm just wondering if there needs to be more increase in service as well that we need to consider.
So this is the second year, this is 2022 is the second year that we've done the entire town. Before, we only did a small area downtown. We did not do north area of Bayfield. And a lot of this is education to people about draining, dog bowls and swimming pools and or standing pools that don't have air, that air is refreshing that water because there's so much sitting water. Obviously, after the rainstorms that we've had, we have sitting water everywhere. It's just infested. So we have had, in fact, you specifically came to me and said, we don't know where the standing water is. We just assumed it was Mesa Meadows detention ponds. And she checked it, and it wasn't. It was everything south of Bayfield Parkway, or the Buck Highway, excuse me, that was creating this. But when an owner decides not to have it controlled or treated, we're kind of at a loss because mosquitoes will cross from my property to your property.
Up to 12 miles a night.
Yep, there you go.
I researched it.
Thank you.
Between 2 and 12 feet, up to 12 miles a night.
Yep.
Dang.
So you can kill all the mosquitoes you want here, but they're coming up from McNashville. Or vice versa. I mean,
Yeah, that's
it
true.
could be.
Okay.
Time to plant some garlic.
Sounds like it
It's a detractor.
Citronella.
Oh,
Well,
nope, that doesn't work.
it
I
doesn't
got
really
plants
work.
all over the backyard. I wish.
Garlic?
No, citronella. Smells nice.
What's everybody's thought on, obviously, we have to remedy this, we have to place some sort of catch-up. I know staff is asking for the 15%. I understand, like you said, I think there's gonna take that educational component to get this out to, the residents, but I think it just needs to be done.
Yeah, that 15% gets us a lot closer to where we need to be than 5, so.
And I think we had this talk, I want to say we had this talk about ripping off the Band-Aid, because I think everybody was hesitant about raising rates, and I think, now we're getting in this position of falling deeper and deeper into the red, so.
Well, I think I just have one more question, Katie. So when I'm looking, sorry, I got lots of
No,
questions tonight.
sure.
Doing a lot of math. So when I'm looking at, on the front page, the water rates, where 15% is $34.87. And then the 4-year average puts us at $30.73. But the proposed 2023 from our study was $31.84. Does this mean that next year, when we consider this again, we can get back on track with a 5% annual increase, and and people's rates will go down in 2024 unless we determine that we're gonna keep doing this 15%? Like, what does that look like?
So, right now, you have supply issues, just ordering things. Anything with steel, and there's probably a lot of steel and aluminum and glass, and everything that's ordered for water and sewer continues to go up. And so when you look at the rate study, and I'd be more than happy to provide that to all of you from 2018, it basically talks about supplies, labor, and some other things that are affecting the rates and why they made those recommendations that they made. So I don't see them going down until until other things go down. And unfortunately, that's not probably likely anytime soon. I think by 2024, you're going to have 2 years of this new rate system, and you're going to get better information from a consultant that will give you, information that's not coming from us, it's coming from an engineer that knows what it's going to cost to keep up with regulations, to keep staff hired, to continue for capital improvements, and our developers should be paying for development.
Okay, no, I guess I was just looking at the study itself says in 2023, the rate should be 32.48. And so if you were to keep going along with that 3% annual, does that get you to the 2024 being 34.87, or would it have been a lesser amount?
Well, in the 2023 is 32.48, so basically we're backfilling past low rates. We're not going to go lower in 2024. We're already backfilling 2020, 2021, and 2022. So I would say no, you're not going to lower the rates when you're already backfilling for 3 years.
Okay.
I think that because we had the pandemic and we were, basically kind in not increasing fees at that time to try to help our people get through that, it makes sense to me to do the 15% because it doesn't get us close to being where we need to be. It does look like, on average, it's probably around $15 a household.
And if you are eligible for LEAP, I just put it in my calculator, it's a little over $90 a month for those same base rates. So if you were eligible for LEAP in town, instead of $120, you're paying about $190 if you approve utility relief for 2023. And it's an annual renewal every year. And they also have LIWAP. It's another process that if you get in arrears, the state will actually pay your water and sewer to the town through that program as well. Plus, LEAP also gives you a discount on your heating. My mother-in-law passed away early in February, And through her account, I got $620. I didn't get it. Her account got $620 because they had extra money for her heat. Now, I'm not eligible, and it all went away after her house was sold. But the thing is the state was actually giving money for her heat of 2022 and 2023.
So I guess my personal direction would be the 15%.
I would agree with you about we haven't had a lot of increases, so, and then on top of it, not increasing over the pandemic. I think that needs to be communicated too. But we have to catch up. There's no way around it.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we going to make the trek?
That's up to you.
You need it mostly for photos and stuff. Do you want to?
It's a photo op and a thank you to the state for the $150,000 that they gave us for, and that's up to you. We can do it another day.
Can we reschedule it to a not rainy?
Yeah, or can it be like at our team meeting tomorrow? We run out and do it
Sure.
and do that? Okay.
So tomorrow at 9 o'clock, we have our leadership meeting, so we'll just plan on 9 o'clock. If anybody's available, please come out, and I'm looking at some people, maybe not.
I won't be there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll get it done. I'll give my spiel. We'll use the giant scissors. We'll cut a ribbon. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll postpone our ribbon cutting ceremony for our West Mill Street project till tomorrow morning. I'm gonna text Eli because he is going to Zoom in. If anybody needs a minute, well. You're good.
Wonder why. Which one do you think it is?
I know a few of them are here for that.
Oh, I know.
If he doesn't join in, we have a quorum, so I'm not too concerned, but
I should say, it's a rain delay.
Is he working or something?
I don't know. Yeah, so you'll just announce that you will abstain from any. Because there is a,
Yeah, see, that's when I read that, I was like,
yeah, that's where it is. I'm like,
yeah,
I knew
I mean, I knew it was somewhere. I was like, I know I read it. Where did I read it? And I shouldn't be party to that.
And then just, I think you guys all got it, but there was a late letter that came in from David Black, if you got caught up on that.
Did you go to the public today? I was not able to. How was it? Good turnout?
I mean, is any of this interim marshal?
I put Dwayne's letter on your, on your,
Does it,
I mean, we could go ask the attorney real quick.
we're talking about.
But I would definitely say this one.
Which one are you pointing at?
This one for sure, but I don't know that you would have to. But let's just double check on,
What page is that?
it's in the,
Oh, it's right there.
yeah.
Man, those recruiter proposals are so far off.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow, not even kind of comparable.
yeah.
I don't know how you choose from something like
I'm
that.
gonna announce for, public hearing that it's been renewed.
So that they can talk, yeah,
If they're here to say,
yeah,
and then
yeah, because if
for the
they came here
agenda,
for this, then.
yeah, you might want to, you can say your piece and then. Okay, just to
Just, yeah,
make it easy.
get easy. Do I need to leave though?
I don't think you,
I mean, I wouldn't think. Well, they were having us leave for a while because people were being weird about it.
yeah, I think they do want you to, we'll have you just leave the room, sorry. And then you have to get up a couple times. You'll have to get up a couple times. Eli said he's jumping on, but I don't see him. Come on, Eli.
So do we have
Okay. Okay, Eli, can you hear us? Oh, he's just, no.
please hold?
Right.
All right, Eli, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Gotcha. Okay, everybody ready? All right, we'll call this meeting to order, dated September 6, 2022. The time is now 6:48. Roll call.
Trustee Ah.
Here.
Trustee Dallison. Here. Trustee Harts.
Here?
Trustee Luke.
Here.
Trustee Moreland.
Here.
Trustee Cesaro.
Here.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Here.
All present.
Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, does the board have any conflicts of interest to announce at this time?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would like to recuse myself from item 2C, II, and 6C and D.
Okay, thank you, Brenna. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on to general public input. And I just want to let the audience know that the public hearing has been continued. So if you are here to talk about the Ironton annexation, now would be your time to go ahead and address the board since it's no longer on the agenda. Till September 20th.
So there will be a public hearing on the 20th, but you're still welcome to comment tonight.
Correct. So if anybody would like to address the board, please state your name and address for the record, and keep it to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening, Cat Cat's House, 525 Deer Branch Road. I would like to comment about the geological report on Ironton. I believe that 40-foot right-of-way or easement from the floodplain is a mandatory thing. Please make sure that you encourage that or write that into the agreement. If you're paying any attention to the climate change issues, we are going to have less rain, less moisture, but when we do get rain, we're going to get flooding, major flooding. And so FEMA is looking at, and the flood reports are looking at reducing our floodplain in that area, which is ridiculous. We need to have more space to handle water flow based on these major floods that we will get, like you're seeing in Mississippi and other areas where major rainfall is falling, like it's beyond record. It's not a 500-year flood, it's like a 1,000-year flood. So we need to look at that. We need to, if they're not going to ensure that we have a floodplain that's going to address major flooding, we need to make sure that we're requiring these developments to be the right distance. And they pretty much say, you know, it would be advisable. So it is advisable. Pay attention to that and ensure that we're not putting any developments within something that has the potential to flood and flood quite a bit. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here again about senior center.
Can you just state your name and address, please, for the record?
I'm very sorry. It Phelps, and it's 1048 North Oak Drive,
Thank you, Kay.
okay? We have for years been on craft fair, and we'd like to do it again. We checked into getting the building, and we're told it was $55 an hour. We definitely would be there at least 7 hours to set up and clean up and, you know, be there to be open for the people. It was $40 an hour if we did not use what we consider our kitchen. It's all our stuff in that kitchen that has always been there for the use of just the seniors. I would like you to know that I have checked around a little bit to see about other buildings. And what I keep hearing is that there is a way that, let me find what it says here. Nonprofits get free things. We're a nonprofit. What we use our money for is things like today we had a barbecue. We bought all the meat, we bought paper plates, we bought all that kind of stuff and had made potluck. We filled the room with people. We did that not too long ago just because we were going to be able to be in the building soon. And the same way it was full of people. We slowly are building our people up. We're averaging at least 30, 32 a day when we are there to eat. I don't know about Tuesdays because I don't go. But I would sure like you, instead of always thinking dollar signs, to think compassionately about what we as the older seniors have done for this community. We're starting to feel like beggars, and we're not. We paid our way. Thank you.
Sure.
I am Charlene Johnson, and I live at 251 Clover Drive. And can I talk a second? What I'm passing out is a list of all the donors over $500. Over $500. Not the donors that have passed out given us $100 or $50, whatever. And,
All right, can pass.
oh, okay, and Ashley, you're on the under 500, well, the Billy is on the under 500, so your name's not on that list, okay? But, okay, my reason for passing this out is this money was for the Pine River Senior Center. It was not for a community center for the town, and the seniors come second. If you'll notice on that, corporations that take care of seniors, even from Denver, donated for our building, the Pine River Senior Center. Not to be a community center. I cannot take credit for that building, because I've only been here 20 years, okay? But that building is a lifeline for a lot of our seniors. So many of the people that's on the list of the 500 and less have long since passed. They gave their heart and soul to that building and to our organization. And I think we're being screwed. We have always had, for 15 years, the thing that Kay was talking about, the bazaar. We can put 22 people in there, tables, at $20 each. Okay, do the math, that's not much. Now, before things change and we can no longer have a license for a silent auction, which brought in $2,000 to $4,000 every time, and a raffle, which brought in $400 to $500, and our concession stand, which are $300 or $400. Our only income now for a bazaar would be the concession stand and our rental, 22 times 20. That's why we are asking for our building to be given back to us for that day, that we do not have to pay $40 to $50 an hour for that building that we went out and got donations for, and then pay $15 or $20 for the kitchen that has always been called the senior's kitchen. There's not a thing in that kitchen. Salt, pepper, silverware, glass, anything in there that belongs to the town. It belongs to the seniors. And now we're being asked to pay for all of that when our income for that day will be 22 vendors at $20 each, and maybe a $200 or $300 concession stand. And we use our money wisely. We not only, just as Kay said, spend it on, for like our potluck. If there is a family or something in real need, we have donated to the town, to the people, to funds. We are not to be overlooked any longer. That's our building, and we want some control back and some respect back. Thank you.
Carolyn Williams, County Road 509-4334, County Road 509, which I noticed in the draft of the town's future growth area. My property is now within that area. So I echo what Charlene had to say. We are probably here because of the discussion of the IGA, which is down at the end of the agenda. And I would like that to be moved up towards the front of the agenda so that we don't have to sit through everything else. we have, for more than a year now, had this dispute with the town about whether the seniors have to pay to use their own senior center. And that issue has not changed. As far as I know, the $300 that was paid by Phyllis Ludwig in August of last year has not been repaid to her. I'm sure she will correct me if I'm mistaken. But it's still the issue, the seniors have to sign this use agreement to use our own senior center, and the agreement is totally inappropriate for the seniors, but we are forced to sign it, and also putting liability on the seniors if anything was to happen there. And so we're still looking for reconsideration of that.
Yeah, let's go, we can go ahead and move that up into, can we put that into our department reports, add that at the end for discussion?
Sure.
Would you cue that up as well? Do we have anyone else?
I'd like to speak.
Okay, 1 second, David, I'll call on you next.
Lucy Stewart, 128 North Appaloosa. Mine's not about the senior center, but I do agree with the seniors. They've had it for a long time and worked hard. But I'm here because I took a tour of the water that we were talking about flooding the last month ago, or maybe 2 months ago when I was here. And I didn't see, after that last big storm that we had, we didn't have any flooding in the Bay Estates area. We didn't have the flooding like we did because the ditches didn't clog up. The culvert that goes from the pawn shop onto our subdivision is squashed and plugged up, so the water's not going to go anywhere. So that's where water sits, and that was something that I talked to about when TRC was over there. They were driving their heavy equipment over that culvert and collapsed that culvert. But then I went to out to the new subdivisions, and there's nothing to hold that water back. And I don't think that everybody in Bayfield, as people that have to pay for the water and sewer and all this bug thing that they don't do anything with, that we have all these mosquitoes, you know, I don't think we should have to pay because those developers and who was overseeing those developers did not make sure that there was correct drainage. Because you go out there, and I bet if you went out there now, the water is flowing onto the highway. And that is poor planning on whoever is on the city that's overseeing these projects and whoever's looking at those plans, because we should not have that. As a new development that's still in developing point at this point, it's not even finished. And you have all this mud and all everything onto the road. That don't make sense. And then this other thing is there was a little snide comment made here at that meeting that was here about where the pawn shop was at, on how cars drive by there. Yeah, they drive by there. You know why? Because I've even seen Bayfield Public Works trucks with the insignias on the side drive from our subdivision across the highway through there. When that was put in as an auto parts store, we as a subdivision came in to the town board and asked that a gate be put up and kept closed. And they're not supposed to be using our subdivision for that pawn shop. That was something that was discussed in our meetings with the town. Now they've taken the one gate, the gate's open. They've taken the pole that was holding that gate. I really think you guys need to consider making them do what they're supposed to do, because somebody's gonna get hurt through there. We've got kids that walk through there all the time, and cars just zoom all the way through because they know they can go through, and that needs to be taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, we got, David is next.
Good evening. You can hear me?
Yes.
want to touch again on this driveway.
Name and address, David, sorry, just for the record.
Say what?
Name and address, you know the drill.
Are you hearing me?
I hear you. I need you to state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is David Black. I live at 606 Buck Highway. I also maintain an interest in that which is accessed through the access that we're going to talk about. Because when Beamer and Dwayne put up that gate, they did it, and I ended up getting charged with a crime. And I had to do a civil suit to make that crime go away. This cost me close to $10,000. I'm not amused by the fact that all of a sudden you have a gate appearing on something that I paid to make certain that there was access through. Use of that driveway by the public has been open and notorious and continual use for over 100 years. I want to reiterate that point, for over 100 years. I want to make some rebuttals here to some of the points that Nicole was making in your presentation that you'll hear later. The fact that a building is directly east of the driveway or the Bayfield design standards are applied, none of that stuff is perfect. Indeed, the town has plowed that driveway in the past. When I had my business there, it was plowed more than once. Now, I know that wasn't always made a practice, because I too have it plowed, but they would run a plow through there if there was enough snow to justify it. The marshal's views are immaterial, but honestly, the fire department's comments on this ought to raise a concern with you all, because that's a pretty cavalier attitude, actually, about access that's been in play for 100 years. But I think that the most important thing here, there's a couple of things. Excuse me. There were two instances where this was before the town board for land use questions. And neither instance was did the narrative reflect any type of closure anticipated for the public access. You can call it private access all you want. It's not private access. It's public access. Colorado's adverse possession statute states without doubt that if you demonstrate a drive has been in open and notorious, continuous, without effective interruption for 18 years, that you haven't prescribed easement. Well, we have an easement here that is near 100. 100 years. You guys better pay attention. Mr. Burke just paid in. Since he likes to sue you guys, pay attention. But anyway, getting back to the question here. Beamer and Dwayne cannot assert claims that have been disproven and or that they agreed to and are contrary to law. They cannot do that.
Hey, Nicole.
Continued use for over 100 years because of pertinent rights were extended, prescriptive rights of access to the public have been used and established. After 100 years, folks, it is public access, regardless of the gate sitting up there. And I heard today that they're talking about putting an electric gate on there. Well, if that's the case, they better spend some money on a lawyer first. I think there's one in the audience.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dwayne, I think were you next? Did you want to?
My name is Dwayne Greer, and I live at 90 West Mill Street.
I had chosen to succinctly abstain from comments until such time as we have been threatened unlawfully, I should say. The access that is being spoken of at 90 West Mill Street, the agreement after being taken to court for putting up a gate on our driveway, the agreement was between Eli Max, which was a business that owned 580 Southwest Street, and us. Eli Max no longer owns that property. Eli Max has no interest in any of the properties adjoining. And I have a letter from the owner of the property in question that now holds the access easement. That access easement, when taken to court, was agreed upon for ingress and egress only. There was nothing in that agreement about public access. The owner of San Juan Vans, Taylor Rip, now owns that easement. And I have a letter which I've given to the town manager from Mr. Rip, allowing us to put a gate up across our driveway. So as it stands, there are a number of inconsistencies with the filings that Mr. Black has given the town. I don't really see a need to go into that simply because it's not public access and there's nothing throughout the history that indicates it was access. It was given to heirs and assigns for specific purposes. Those purposes no longer exist, and that is an agreement from Taylor Rip, who now owns San Juan Vans. So before anything is pursued by the town beyond what we've got as a research and what has been given to the town, my recommendation would only be to have it clearly defined what Mr. David Black's interest is in our driveway. Because as I see it now, he has no interest whatsoever. Therefore, he has no grounds for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I gotta clarify a few things, or do you want me to like?
Yeah, I was hoping if you do, or you want to do it during your report. Is that?
I would just ask if there's any more further public comment, and then close the public comment and
Okay.
address
Do we have
issues
any-
regarding the response to the last
Okay.
meeting's claim.
Good evening, Matt Nyberg, 517 Dove Ranch Road. I'm here just to give clarification on the Foxfire development. I know in the past it was brought up that Foxfire Tower was going to be a community center for that development in there, and I don't know if that's still the plan, but it looks like somebody has purchased the property or is taking advantage of the property by parking and has a shed up there. And so I'm just wondering if we're gonna keep HOAs consistent, that this would be something that you guys would check into, because if it's something that you don't see that it's important, then when HOAs disband, I don't see why they would have to come to the town and have to ask for clarification. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any more public comments? Not, we're going to turn this over to Nicole for clarification on previous comments.
Yeah, so this is referring to that 90 Mill Street gate. And I did put together an analysis of what staff looked at based on Mr. Black's email or letter dated August 16th. And of course, did find the right-of-way agreement that's between the two parties. And the town is not a party to that right-of-way agreement. So Mr. Black stated that was used for public access as well, and so that's the piece that I really wanted to investigate a little bit more. I did pull plats, adjacent plats, no mention of access easements. There's utility easements. The town actually is named as It has a dedicated utility easement, which is what we just put the electrical into as well. And we have the ability to ingress egress for installation, operation, maintenance, reconstruction, improvement, replacement, and removal of utility lines. So again, no public access there. Usually, what, Mr. Black is stating that, there's adverse possession or prescriptive easements. Those usually are either easements are dedicated in plats or determined by a judge. If there's adverse possession, and I've never found a court case that mentioned public access for that driveway. And so a couple things, if the board wants to consider public access, there are some concerns from staff's perspective of that driveway. The first one is the triangle line of sight. And so again, there's a building located at 64 Mill Street that would not meet our visibility. So when a vehicle is trying to pull out onto Mill Street, we have a certain requirement for visibility in the code for safety for vehicles, and also because it's Mill Street for a lot of pedestrian access, and it would not meet that requirement. It's also substandard in size. We usually want to see 20 feet of pavement for alleyways, and that's our minimal street standard. The town technically doesn't have driveways that we take on as for public access beyond our town properties that have driveways. And so alleys are minimum street standard, 20 feet of pavement. I know a lot of our older alleys don't meet that requirement, but in this case, it's really a 12-foot area where you can drive through. And also, Public Works, they may have removed snow in the past, I don't know, but they do not remove snow. It's not on their list to maintain on the city's list of streets and alleys. And then I did want to reach out because in Mr. Black's original letter dated August 16th, he did talk about emergency access. And so I did want to reach out to the marshal and Upper Pine to confirm their, if they had concerns with that driveway. And again, Upper Pine's really biggest concern was during parade events on Mill Street. They like to be able to access that driveway, and Dwayne and Beamer had said they would still allow that to occur. They have control over that gate. So really, staff wanted to look at, okay, if the board wanted to consider this conversation of I would say prescriptive easements in the future. These are some of the concerns we should look at, and look at town liability if we want to take on this driveway as a public access. And so there are concerns with this type of use. And again, I didn't find anything in easements or judgments that this was ever set aside for public access. If the town board does want us to investigate this further beyond what I was able to look into, then, we would, you could direct staff to work with our town attorney to do some additional legal research, because again, I'm not a lawyer, so this is what I was able to find for that property. That's what I have. And so at the end, 11 years ago, the previous town manager wrote a similar letter to Mr. Black saying that the town did not find anything that dedicated this as public access. And again, I did not find anything that had it as public access at this point in time.
I feel pretty confident with the research that staff has done on this, that this is a private matter. And I don't.
And what I'm hearing is if we turn this into our matter, there are issues with the width of if it was public access, there's issues with that, there's issues with visibility, and so there'd be a lot of liability on the town if this was something that we were managing as public access versus something that is on private property, correct?
Correct. And I think, I'll say from a planning perspective too, we would really like to see Mill Street become more pedestrian-friendly street, and therefore, you don't want to see a lot of driveways on Mill Street. That's a conflict between vehicles and pedestrians. There's streets that run north-south that connect to Mill Street that have safe pedestrian crossings with crosswalks, ADA ramps. They are actually designed for pedestrians and vehicles to have that interaction, and driveways are a safety concern, and honestly, I know, it's all private driveway, but someday it'd be great to actually see this driveway go away and, continuous sidewalk and parking, but again, that's a private driveway. We're not requiring that at this point, but I would just say there's a conflict there also between pedestrians and vehicles that are concerning.
Just a little bit of some of the research I looked into. It doesn't look like you can even get a prescriptive easement unless if there's co-usage by the owner of the property as well. And using a driveway, wanting to put a gate on it, I mean, it sounds like they use it. So I don't even know if the prescriptive easement is something that is viable. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, we can further look into this issue, but I feel like,
If there was a public easement, it would have showed up in the title work and been on one or both of these plats.
As well.
I feel like any further research, we're just, we're asking our attorney, to spend time on this, and staff has already spent a lot of time on this, but if there's a need for it or any desire to continue this. Okay. Thank you, Nicole. Did you want to discuss the other email or just let?
It was
Just in there for information.
distribute, and I
Okay.
put it in the packet, so.
If anybody has questions about that, you can let me know. All right, there have been some agenda changes.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to change our agenda tonight. I'd like to move 7A up to after 2D. And I would also like to remove the public hearing and land use action agenda for the Ironton annexation.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Ogg.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yay.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, did everybody get a chance to review the August 16th, 2022 minutes?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the August 16th, 2022 minutes as presented by the town clerk.
I second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Ogg.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
Okay, moving on to our reports. Our Parks and Rec Director, Ryan, do you have any highlights of your report?
Yeah, I'll try to stick to the highlights here. We just finished up our adult softball league last week. It was kind of a chore to get through with all the rain we've got in the summer, but we made it. We are now into our youth sports season, switching gears to soccer and flag football, which the registration was really good. It was comparable to, it was higher than last fall, and it was, soccer was comparable to spring, which is usually a big season for us. So it looks like people are out and about and participating in programs again. We will be opening registration for our 5th and 6th grade basketball league this week. Upcoming special events, we will be doing fireworks on the evening of September 24th, which is Heritage Days. Also, September 30th will be the Bayfield High School Homecoming Parade on Mill Street. Contact has been made with the head of the Arena Association, which I found out it was a gentleman named Kyle Gibbons. We still have a lot of discussion that needs to take place with Kyle and the Arena Board and the school district to determine the feasibility of moving the rodeo grounds for the park master plan. Senior Center Security, NOAA Enterprises has installed the security cameras and they're up and running. Regular maintenance on weekends for rentals and weekly maintenance as far as mowing and trimming has been going on. This week, Deep Roots is finishing out our budget for the year for tree removal and trimming at roadside little time parks. We're moving forward with several of our 2022 capital improvement projects. And we did our last block party on August 18th, as you know. And then final item, Katie and myself, we met with Bayfield School District officials to work out the terms of the old mid-school gym lease. And the school is changing the locks on the old mid-school. So we view that as an opportunity to kind of get that building and the maintenance and oversight of it back under control a little bit.
Is that big tree coming down at roadside?
We're still waiting on CDOT. I guess that's CDOT's responsibility, and we haven't heard yay or nay from them what their plan is for that, but it is their responsibility.
Any questions for Ryan? Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our town manager report. Katie.
Yeah, so our best and brightest intern finished the bar at the end of July, and then was having issues with basically confirming the DOLA program. So she's declined that position to start this year. So in the budget for 2023, we just removed that for now. Other than Aurora, was not really impressed with some of the other candidates that were looking for a best and brightest position, so we'll let that pass. If it does come up, it comes up in the February, and of course, because of the state's budget, it gets funded July through June for 2 years. So we're just going to pass that for 2023 and consider it maybe for 2024. I want to make sure that that the board understands really how far we've come with land use. I would say that when I first got here, there was just a storage room full of documents that really had no organization, no way to find things. And we've come a long ways, basically just to reduce what was unnecessary. I want to make sure that you know that the plats that we did have scanned by Mountain States actually came back in paper, so they're here back at Town Hall. We had a couple issues with the scanning quality, and so they redid that a second time, and very happy with the second scan that they did. But the paper is here, just in case people are concerned that they're not here. I would have to say that just the addition of Nicole has bringing our land use application process far exceeded where we were. I was kind of panicked last year, like either I got to be your community development director or be your town manager. I couldn't do both because I knew what was coming to the town of Bayfield. And Nicole has been a great addition, but keep in mind she also has a team. We're creating a team. We have, Public Works, the Marshal's office, Parks and Rec, and then the admin staff is her team. So I think it's remarkable, and I want to thank the board for approving a community development director at Nicole's caliber to bring in so that we could move forward. The one thing that we're going to be working on this next winter, hopefully things slow down, is a document management system to better not only have scanned images, but to manage and organize those so they're more electronic. In my experience, I've had the ability to basically open up my GIS software or online software, be able to pin on a parcel and bring up all the applications that were with that parcel. So it could be a building permit, it could be a TAP application, it could be all those things that go with that property. So we're hoping to work on that. That's going to be one of those processes that's going to take a lot of time, but you're not going to have any new gadgets. There's not going to be a new thing that you're going to see, but there's going to be a lot of improvement in Town Hall. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. We're kind of like rebuilding this house, getting better management. But I know that there's been some concerns that, our land use and concentration and review has not been deep enough or thorough enough, but I have to say that this town has come a long ways to doing that, and I want to thank the board for that process. I am going to take a little time off. Kind of been on a hamster on a wheel here the last couple months. But anyway, I will be available by cell phone, but probably not by office phone or email. So anyway.
Any questions or comments? All right, we'll move on to our Cameron Orndorff review and approval process.
So Cameron is Ryan's son. Our nepotism policy does not allow supervision of one employee related to another. Antonio Ortiz is our recreation coordinator, and he would be directly supervising the recreation coordinator. So we're looking for basically your approval to hire Cameron, even though he's Ryan's son, understanding that he will be managed by Antonio. And I always want to make sure there's transparency, especially when we're talking about relatives.
Is he in the line of at all, the father, Ryan?
Yes. So Antonio is supervised by Ryan.
And we've done this before. It's a seasonal employee, so we've made
Right.
exceptions before.
So maybe if there's a problem that goes above, that it needs to go to you.
It needs to go to me, yes.
I don't have a problem as long as that's the case.
Any other concerns or questions or? We're looking for,
I just have one other thing. So if he has any problems with his manager, I think that it should go to you as well.
That's
and
correct.
it should not go to Ryan at all. He should not be a part of any of that
And that's
management
understood.
piece. Okay, yeah. That's all.
okay, no, that's good questions. We are looking for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Cameron Orndorff for youth officiating with Antonio Ortiz as Cameron's direct supervisor.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yay.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, we're moving on to on-call for law enforcement. We'll have Brenna step out. All right.
So in 2020, we updated our personnel handbook, and section 6.110.a allows 24 hours on call for law enforcement the actual document is on call, the actual wording is on call hours may include hours between 4 a.m. and 11 p.m. as set by an employee's supervisor 7 days a week. And when we were putting this together, the marshal did not want his staff to have on-call. And so now when it was explained about what on-call is and how it's paid and, you know, what happens if you're called out or, you know, the hours that you actually are working, I think it was explained and the deputies would like to have on-call. However, we're now kind of challenged of what this is going to be in a budget as well. There's a number of changes we'd like to make to the employee handbook that we're kind of reviewing, and it's going to take us a while to get through all of those. But it would be really helpful to have basically a motion by the board to allow a kind of a variance to our employee handbook for a period of time until we bring all of these changes to the employee handbook. So this would allow 24 hours of the day as set by the employee supervisor to be considered for on-call so that we could not only let them try it out, I guess, but also make sure, find out what it's going to cost in on-call as well. And it'd be retroactive to August 13th, and that would have been the day after the marshal's retirement, because at his request, he did not want on-call for his employees.
And that's gonna be enough of a timeframe, like to get a sample size on that, or just a?
Well, September would be great, just to have the full month of September and, you know, a couple payroll periods would be
Okay.
great. By October, that last meeting in October, we'll probably be adopting some changes to the employee handbook, and then they'll be in the handbook and no longer just a pilot program. Very honestly, on-call is typically for law enforcement. So it was a little bit of a surprise to me that's, and of course, Public Works and actually some other employees can also be considered on-call for certain reasons. So I'm happy, I'd really like to recommend that we allow this even as a pilot and then put it in the handbook more permanently.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to allow all 24 hours of the day as set by the employee supervisor to be considered for on-call for law enforcement retroactive to August 13th, 2022.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
I have a question, actually. So for what we're doing right now, are we saying that we're doing that through September, or we're doing that through?
Just through until we actually adopt a new employee handbook.
Do we need to state that here?
That's certainly your call.
Okay, no, I was just thinking, because the way I'm reading this is, it's forever. So if we need to say it's until a certain period of time, I don't know.
Until the
I'm
new
sorry.
employee handbook is
Until-
adopted by a resolution.
Okay. So I'd like to add that on, that retroactive to August 13th, 2022, until adoption of whatever edits to the employee handbook.
Yep.
Are you guys okay with that? Okay.
The motioner would have to also amend that to that
You're up.
So you could say, you could
You're the
add,
motioner.
you could add Lori's comments to your motion.
What she said. So I'd like to make a motion to allow all 24 hours of the day as set by the employee supervisor to be considered for on-call for law enforcement retroactive to August 13th, 2022 until revisions and adoption of the employee handbook have been completed.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further or last minute discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
We'll let Brenna rejoin. All right, we'll move on to our clerk and recorder, town hall days and public hours.
So the clerk and recorder is looking to go to a 4-day week, and they do use this office here, Town Hall, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So they're going to extend their hours from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. From my understanding, this is a pilot on their end. It doesn't need any approval by the Board of Trustees, but you need to be aware that we now have some issues with, you know, town hall and doors, and, you know, do they come through the boardroom and leave that door open? So there's some other things that we're going to have to consider regarding securing this building. You know, it may be a chance for us all to look at, you know, could town hall be open, you know, actually operations further in the afternoon on a Tuesday or Thursday. But then we may be looking at closing on a Friday versus being open on a Friday morning. So I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, and I am looking for any feedback from the board through the next couple months. So.
Katie, my only concern is that, I mean, is there only going to be this one staff member in the building until 5:30? Or are there other town, like, I know we lock our doors typically to the public at a certain time, but I always think it's better to have at least 2 people in a building just in case of an emergency. So,
So
but
they
now
have-
we'd be changing our.
They have 2.
They have 2 people.
There's
Okay.
typically 2 here on staff. I would hate to start requiring one of my town staff to stay here
No, I agree
as
with
a-
you on that,
yeah.
totally. That's why I'm wondering
As a,
if,
they're not a babysitter, but as a,
no, it's a safety concern.
right.
For
And
real.
I think we've got to figure out door access as well, because we have
the county
sticky
doesn't have a
doors.
key currently, do they, or anything? Or do they?
They do have a key. They have a key. They have access to the secure door. We have a kind of a security plan for them. But my concern is that there's more doors that need to be checked. You know, the other day we had a little kid running around here in the boardroom. Well, we have a access right here that could be opened and left open. So we have to kind of figure out other things as well. And they're happy to consider all of our concerns as well.
Yeah, give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see how it works
Good
out.
concerns.
I do think people get off work and they like to be able to make sure they can hit up, you know, get their vehicle registered. So I think that's gonna be a nice service to have, but I think as long as we express our concerns, I think I'm good with it.
Well, and they may also get inquiries for the town itself, so they have to be willing to somehow, like, you know, be able to communicate with the
That's
people that come
correct.
up, what their options are as well. So, I mean, there's a give and take both ways on that.
Yep.
But I think as far as like getting into the building and being here, just the 2 of them, I don't see an issue with that. I mean, I'm sure they open up their own buildings, might be 2 people at a time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think as long as there's 2, and maybe if we help them out by having signage on our windows that are closed during the time when they'd still be open, that might help alleviate any additional questions that they would receive.
Well, we're accustomed to answering the questions from the public about their office, so it's now their turn.
I'm sure.
When I first saw this, I thought you guys were asking to kind of be on the same schedule. What's the interest? No.
I would say that give this a couple weeks, a couple months, and we go back to the admin staff and find out what their interest is.
Okay. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it's kind of a nice thing.
Yeah,
if it's something
if
that
it comes
everybody
up, then it's-
kind of wants.
I wouldn't be opposed, however, then you're going to need to close Friday because we start to run into overtime
Right.
when we have that extended hours.
Well, I meant that with the Friday close.
Okay. So I guess we're good with that. All right, we will go ahead and move on to our senior center discussion.
Yay, so I'm up. I know I saw some of you when we were at the senior center, I think it was 2 Fridays ago. Mike Segrist from the county and Vicki Mestis wanted to meet with us. I think Katie and I and them, there's been a lot of back and forth emails, and sometimes once an email has gone so many times, it kind of requires a phone call or a face-to-face meeting because things are getting lost in the translation. So I just wanted to highlight some of the notes that I sent back to the county to make sure that we were all on the same page with that discussion. And a lot of it is surrounding, we had asked how the county could maybe assist with any improvements to the building, since the building, as we've even heard again tonight, pointed out 15 years ago, the town put $250,000 into the building, the county put money into the building, the community put money into the building, and then 15 years later, there's not really a plan in there for how capital improvements would work, or, I mean, in the current IGA, in order for us to even fix the front door, we had to get permission, I believe, from the county to do that. And so a lot of that IGA has been kind of tying the town's hands as to what we can just, okay, we'd like to do this to make an improvement, and do we need a permission slip from the county to do that? So part of the discussion was, do we even need to have an IGA? Because the county has made it very clear they don't want to manage the building. They want to assist with providing us with options for services, but they don't want to manage the staff that provides those services. They really want the town to take over everything that's going on in that building as it comes to maintaining it, operating it, and then managing how the services work in that building. So the first question that we asked the county was, do we need an IGA? So they're going to be going to their legal team to see what that would look like if there wasn't an intergovernmental agreement. Sorry, I'm usually good at defining acronyms, and I did not for that one first. The other thing is we learned out during that meeting that the county is planning to provide us funding for, partial funding for our coordinator, and we had never heard any of that before. So we wanted to really understand what that funding entails, what are the expectations. It's really to help with the meal services for the kind of, I think, the setup and breakdown. But Katie and I had never heard about any funding coming our way to support the coordination of meal service. So we wanted a little more detail on that while we're in the middle of our budget season. As I said, is there a mechanism for us to ask the county for capital improvements? As you know, the deck needs some work. And so does the town need to budget for everything ourselves, or is there a mechanism for us to go to the county to ask for funding support? As we've said, when the building was put together, the county put in money, the town put in money, the community put in money. So we want to know for the continued existence of the building, the county has a vested interest in it. So we wanted to know if there was a monetary interest in that as well to support just making sure that the building is up to snuff with what it needs to be to function for our seniors and for the other uses of the building when it's not being used for senior time. And then we wanted to know if there needed to be a contract or some sort of memorandum of understanding to provide those meal services. So if we don't, I don't think it says anywhere in the IGA that the county provides meal service. So we wanted to make sure that was documented somewhere. I believe the county receives funding from either the state or the federal government to do those services, but it's not documented anywhere. So we want to make sure that they are who we are using. If they are getting some funding for it and they're providing us with those services, we just wanted it documented somewhere that that's what our agreement is, that they'll continue to provide those services for the Pine River seniors. So those are like the 4 highlights that we wanted some updates on from the county. And we don't have that information back. It has been like a week and a couple days. Mike Segrist said he was going on vacation, so we weren't going to know anything. So I feel like we've been in limbo since I've become the liaison with all of our seniors in April as to this IGA and what we can and can't do. Right now, we're still bound by it. So anything we want to do to improve that building, we have to go through the county on, even though the county has let us know, no, we don't want to make those decisions. We want it to be all you. So we're just trying to figure out, can we have something that's a little more allowing of the town to make improvements to the building without having to get approval from the county to do that. So hopefully we'll have more information at some point. I mean, from April to now it's September. I mean, we thought we could ask them for money for the door, but then we found out that the way they thought we might be able to do it is as a not-for-profit entity, but we're a municipality. But then it was never communicated to us that we couldn't do it that way, so we'd been waiting for 2 months to try to get funding for this door. Yada, yada. Hopefully we'll have updates for everyone in the coming weeks as to what goes on with the IGA, how we can request funds to help do improvements to the building to make it better, or if things are breaking, to make it more functional and safe. But that's really all I have from that hour meeting.
I have a question. I know that, like, in the past, I believe, and I'm not 100% positive of this, but I believe that when our seniors were upset with how things were being handled, that they were able to go to the county and kind of talk to them about it. My concern is that the removal of an IGA would then not give them that backup of that third party or something that they could go to.
There shouldn't be a third party or a backup if the county is saying that they would like for the town to manage,
Pay for everything?
be in charge of everything. The county does not want to have that responsibility, and the county should be directing anyone who comes to them regarding something that's going on in the town of Bayfield back to the town of Bayfield. So the county also, part of that conversation that I didn't capture in my recap, was that is what they are planning to do if anyone goes to them. There can't be this, if I don't like what happens here, I'm going there, or vice versa. The county does not want to have that role at all. They don't want to be a backup. They're not a safety net. They want the town to manage everything that goes on with that building, according to what Katie and I have been told by the
By the
county.
county, okay.
And that's been I mean, that has been the frustration. I just want you to know, our hands have been tied because of this document that we are trying to get remedied. And I know that, you know, it's been very frustrating back and forth, I promise you.
Yeah, they either
So-
need to
I'm
be.
not aware of somebody going to the county. It's not through our senior center, it must be individuals.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, that's just something that I had heard. I don't know how viable it is, but it's something that I heard, and so I was concerned
Yeah.
that, you
It
know,
needs-
I want your voices heard.
The back and forth is gonna be really hard in this discussion, just for the record, but I think this is the time we've heard some of your, you know, some of your concerns, but I just wanted, you know, to give that update on the IGA. Some of the other concerns that came up, I will follow up at our leadership meeting tomorrow, and we'll have that discussion. But I think the point of this discussion was to talk about that IGA. And if Katie, you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add.
And I know it's about the IGA, but there are concerns that were brought before us today. I would like that to be added to a discussion that we have on the next meeting,
On
please.
September 20th.
About the funds they have to pay. Yes, please.
Yeah, I'd like to know a little more about that too.
Actually, I do have a real bad, real heavy.
Okay,
concern
I'm gonna let you come
about
step up then. This is one time, but
Okay.
this is gonna get out of hand if I don't.
Okay, say.
You gotta come up here. This is what I'm saying. It's back and forth.
Safety-wise, as she's spoken, you know, they have bad door. The door is not an issue. Right now, we have a patio that is falling apart. We put yellow tape on it and do not lean on this. But right now, I would be afraid, if I was a town, to rent that building and let them walk out on the back patio. That railing is just, it's not safe. It's not safe at all. And that should be a big priority. If you're going, you know, to be renting it or letting anybody, I mean, even a trespasser could get hurt, and you know, in this day and time, they're gonna sue you.
Well, and that's completely valid, and that is a discussion we're having. According to this IGA, nobody knows who has to pay for that and foot that bill.
But it's
So-
dangerous. And if your name is on the lease, you know, being the town, and I rent that, and then one of my guests falls, I'm gonna go to the town to get my guest repaired, you know.
No, I understand, and when you look at the IGA, it's, well, the county has to approve us to even make any kind of improvement, so who is
Yeah.
over, and that's why, no, I'm more concerned about our seniors who are using it versus a rental. Like, you guys are my priority, because it's
But we
the
know
building
it's
is,
bad.
no, and I mean, I know it extends to that, but the rental's not my priority on that. It's definitely our seniors who predominantly are using that building. So, yeah, no, we need to get this resolved and ironed out. So that's what we are trying to do, and now I'm working on making sure it's documented, and then I will be following up with them on a weekly basis to see what is going on, because this is taking way too long, in my opinion.
Okay, so we'll see that again. We'll move on from there. And once again, I will say those concerns that you had at the beginning of the meeting, I will follow up tomorrow at our leadership meeting. I just want to get to the bottom of some of those, and we will get back to you. Okay, there's some questions in the chat. I don't know if that was about that. Okay, all right, we're going to move on to current year disbursements and our budget items. Do we have any public input pertaining to any of those items, 3A through F, on the agenda? I see a mass exodus happening. I'll go ahead and.
Let it happen. Let it happen.
Yeah. And thank you all for coming out again and
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Can I say one thing? And it's, I didn't tell you that we only make $1,000 a year off our bazaar, because everything else, so if that money we have to pay the town, it isn't even worth our time to give them to.
Okay.
Thank you, Kay.
Thank you, Kay.
Mic drop.
Oh,
Yeah, you might need that.
It was born on the house.
I'm so lost in my
Where we're supposed to be.
August. We're going back to our August 2022 disbursements.
Yeah. Choo, 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 pumping.
Okay. Okay. Did everybody get a chance to look at the August 2022 disbursements? Does anybody have any questions for Kathy? Let's try to steer the ship back to
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve August 2022 disbursements.
I second that.
All right. Roll call.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, we have our fast track pay app number 3.
So this is $34,608.50. All the documentation the engineer is has recommended for this payment. But right behind that, we have fast track app number 4. This will be the final payment of $7,786.90. So the motions can be done separately or together because this will be the final 2 payments for the West Gateway to Mill Street.
Any questions?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the payment for Fast Track Pay Application Number 3 for $34,608.50 for the Main Street Improvement Grant Project, as well as Application Number 4 for $7,786.90 for the same project.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further comment? Roll call.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to our senior center interior handicap door.
So you have capital improvements, about $25,000. We did not proceed with the remodel that we wanted to do some circulation changes, and we're not going to proceed. And the hood, we have some more minor costs where it's going to equal about $4,000 or $5,000, but it's not going to be as much as we thought it was going to be. So I talked to Sundor and talked to them about, when we could make this, sign this quote. And he says, well, by the time you sign the quote, if you wait until your budget is approved, the cost of metal, glass, shipping, aluminum is all going to go up again. He says, but that's your choice. So I just decided to sign the quote, but I'm asking for your ratification because it changes the item that we're paying for, not necessarily the budgetary, the budget that was allowed for this, so.
So the air circulation that we're kind of replacing this for, was that the air conditioning that was needing it? Repairs that you talked about? a
No,
while
it
back?
was the hood.
Oh, okay.
The hood and the shutoff. We have 2 other issues that we have to work at. They're going to be a little more minor in detail than.
Okay, thinking of something
Yeah,
else.
the first cost was about $3,700 to move the shutoff. We got that done, but now there's 2 other things that need to be done.
Gotcha. There's always something else.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the senior center interior handicap door for $11,060.85 to ratify the quote approval.
I'll
Second.
second that.
All right, any further discussion on that? Roll call.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, moving on to our stone security quotes. How about that water plant quote?
So the water plant quote is attached to my recommendations. And I think I may have Jeremy address any of that cost, but it's about $83,000. I'd almost like to wait for that one. It seems high.
Yeah.
Or at least maybe go through the quote with the vendor and see what other things could be done to reduce that quote. I think where we really need this card system is the senior center. And of course, we go back to the IGA with the county. Without a good IGA or approval or whatever we need to do, we kind of go through the same loop-de-loop about, if we can put a card system in. But that's where we really need it. The town hall and the marshal's office, I think, would be very helpful. I don't know if staff would like to address anything else about those two quotes. And then also the public works, I believe that building, the north door latch has got a secure lock that you can't get out if you had to get out of the door on that north side.
Whoa.
JD, can I have you mute yourself?
All right.
Having a little too much fun over there.
Way too much fun in the meeting. So I almost think some door handles need to be done, and that $24,000 would be a third water, a third sewer, and a third streets. That's how that would be budgeted. Actually, I put $80,000 in there for the senior center and town hall, so $66,000 or almost $67,000 is a lot less than $80,000. The quotes, I did get an extension to October 7th for the quotes, so that we can review some of these other issues, but I really wanted to have a discussion about that because it doesn't do any good to continue with this discussion if you decide that this funding, the expenditure is just too much. And maybe the other staff has any input on the system.
I mean, I feel like we have other entities in town using this, and they have good things to say about it. I'm sure from the schools and stuff. That's what you're hearing?
The school is very happy with it, but this is the only vendor we've contacted. We have tried to figure out what other vendors. I think that all of us have worked in other places that may have this type of system. And it may give us time to wait for this quote, but at least you have kind of an idea of what. And we have to be a little careful because now another vendor is going to know you're going to compete with this amount that's actually in a public agenda. So.
Well, one of my thoughts is that it seems like we have some like interior doors or interior things that maybe we might be able to save a little bit by not doing them, and having just a regular key system on those, like boardroom, that sort of thing. Do we really need to have a key, a fob for something like that? And maybe we could save some money if we think about those things and eliminating some of those to make it a little more palatable.
And we can. I think that I got these quotes just before the packet was ready to go out.
Oh yeah, no, you're fine.
And
It just looked like there's a lot of that kind of
the
stuff
water,
in there, and I was
the
like,
water plan, I just think we're just not ready to fund
Yeah.
that. But the others, I think we have some needs, especially if town hall is going to be open till 5:30. It will actually tell you that a door is left ajar, that, or we'll know who came and went through that door that's coming back in. The public, we're not going to know who, but there's going to be a lot of information that we're going to be able to acquire about who's coming in and out of the senior center. We have somebody making coffee. I don't know if we ever figured out who was making coffee, but I think there's some things that ways we can cut part of these. I just wanted to make sure that, you're not at a zero tolerance and we're just not going to even consider this.
well, we budgeted for it, didn't we?
I put $80,000 in for town hall and public and the senior center.
And
So
we're-
that's draft though.
And
That's
we're
still a
at
draft budget.
82, that's what they're saying?
66.
We're about
Oh, yeah,
67.
66. I was looking at the water plant one.
Yeah, well, they're getting bumped.
I would still like to know what it would be like if we can maybe condense it down a little bit to see what that total
And
pricing would be.
these quotes are very itemized.
Mhm. Yeah.
You'll see that they're itemized, basically the storeroom lever, the angle lever, there's all kinds of things. I think I don't want to miss the Public Works building, just because we have an unsafe issue about emergency access out of that north door.
Right. Well, I don't think like exterior doors, like at least as long as you have one, maybe you don't have some side door and you just make it where it's, you don't exit. through
Exterior
that
doors, I
thing.
think, are probably more important than
Yeah.
interior doors.
True.
The only interior door that's really important is the server room where there's a CNL.
Right.
That you have to have. The door actually that goes into Town Hall, that's right now got a secure button push. Maybe we just delay that for a while. I always am concerned if you delay it too long and, everything gets updated and before you know it, our system we bought in 2023 doesn't work to talk to, something that's created in 2026 or whatever. But I think that we can find some priorities and figure out how to cut some costs.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Okay, I think we're in agreement to move forward, minus the water plant. Okay. Moving on to the Spillman quote. Oh, do you have to?
There's no motion here.
Okay.
I just want to make sure there's no further direction. What I'm getting is that you would like to see us find places to cut maybe incremental pieces that maybe we don't think are a priority.
Yes, and to move forward on
And
that.
so that's enough direction unless there's opposition to that.
Okay.
The Spillman quote. So you have that in your packet. I'm just going to bring that up. Get through all this. So it appears that this was sent to the marshal, or he requested it back in March of last year. And in the meantime, the marshal wanted to sign up for AT&T's FirstNet using eForce. That's their system. And I'm not going to be an expert on law enforcement software. However, I am aware of Spillman. I was the one that initiated that in Delta County and very well aware of how that works. But I think that what has happened is that we've been paying for AT&T for computers that do not operate since May of 2021. So all the deputies have a phone that is being serviced by AT&T under AT&T FirstNet. But the CAD computers will not work. And we are aware, I just got a quote from DataSafe, basically to update our infrastructure, which is about $18,000, just to get our bandwidth opened up. We need newer equipment, just to open our bandwidth up, not only for eForce, but probably for Spillman as well. So the Spillman quote, which is almost $46,000, and it's basically itemized there for things that it allows. But maybe I'll let Brandon basically outline what he is aware of in today's world, what Spillman does.
So Spillman is an incredibly robust records management system. We've been using Spillman at the Sheriff's Office since 2009. It was bought by Motorola in 2016. So when you are dealing with a company the size of Motorola, you generally have longevity, you have really good support. We're currently serving over 2,000 public safety entities. Locally in our area, Durango Police Department, the Pike County Sheriff's Office, the Southern Youth PD, and most importantly, Central Dispatch. Why that's important is because if your dispatch center is on the same RMS system that you use as a law enforcement agency, what that allows is a lot of interoperability, which we are lacking right now. Motorola has really put a lot of emphasis on their public safety sector, and it's been a strong component of their business. They've offered body worn cameras now, in-car cameras, license plate recognition readers, and Spillman Flex, which is what we will be using if we move forward to the marshal's office. So they have a really cool thing here that they call their software mission critical ecosystem. And to me, that's just a fancy way of saying that they offer an end-to-end user capability. Meaning they can dispatch all the way to a jail management system and everything in between. The main benefits that I see by moving forward with Spillman would be more efficiency. It eliminates duplication of effort, more time in the field for our deputies, CAD in the cars, which Katie discussed, and additional features, which I can go over if you're ready to. So right now with eForce, what happens when a call is generated, whether that's a self-initiated call by one of our deputies or a call for service, that goes to central dispatch. Central dispatch will create that call in Spillman. All the information will go in Spillman. It'll be dispatched to our deputies. They pull out a notepad. They write down all the information, the address, contact number, the details of the call. Once they're done, once they've completed their call, they have to come back to the office. They have to take all the information that's right there in Spillman, that would be click of a button, so to speak, to transfer into some of their reports. They have to go back into eForce and generate it all over again. For every call that comes in and for every call that they initiate.
Ouch.
Now, this created a lot of work for Amber too, because a lot of the calls that we do are security checks, extra patrols. And Amber is the one that enters those. So they have paper logs. Everything that they've done, every business that they've checked, they'll write out a paper log, turn it in the morning, and Amber spends a lot of her time entering that data into eForce.
What a waste. Yeah, what a waste.
And another advantage here is more time in the field. With Spillman, it's going to give our deputies the opportunity to do the reports in the car and not come back to the office, which we all know the expectation of law enforcement is to be out in the face of the public. Right now, these guys would have a better idea, but depending on the call load, anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 hours of just data entry, which is not a great use of an 11 to 12 hour shift. So having CAD in the cars, which Katie discussed, is a really big benefit. Having the information right there on the screen instead of having to write it down, instead of having to ask dispatch, can you repeat that address? When you click on the call, all the information is going to be there. The reporting party's contact information. If we go with Spillman, it has a feature which you'll see in the quote called mobile forms. All that information that was gathered by dispatch, if we use mobile forms, can be directly translated into that report. So there's no more data entry. It comes directly over. If they run a plate, if they run an individual, that information will go directly into their report systems. So it actually eliminates even more data entry by using the mobile forms. That gives them the opportunity to research information on the subjects or the suspects that they're dealing with in the call. Spillman has a very robust ability to pull up previous incidents, look up associates, pull up a name and see all the different incidents that that person has been involved in. By going with Spillman, that would give them the opportunity to do that while they were responding to the call, giving them a better idea what they might be getting into. AVL, which is in the quote there, what that does is it's a GPS system that will allow all the deputies working and dispatch to know where the deputies are at. It's basically a map system that would show a little car on the map, and it would show exactly where they're at. That's really important in the county. It's not as important in a smaller town, but I do think there are some benefits. With that AVL comes the quickest route, which is, it will automatically show you the quickest route to a call. Again, not as important in a small town, but our deputies do help the sheriff's office quite a bit on calls in Forest Lakes and other areas around, which it may help them get to those calls a little quicker. So, some of the additional features I'll just hit on really quick. The different modules that Spillman offers. equipment maintenance, evidence management, fleet maintenance, inventory management, pond property, state link, traffic information. And then, I'll stop here, but there's a really important investigative tool that Spillman is moving towards, which allows us to, as supervisors, to have an idea of what's happening in the town. It's gonna generate hotspots if there's an area in the town where a specific type of crime is a little bit more prevalent. We can pull that up, we can see, hey, we're getting a ton of car break-ins in the Mason Meadow subdivision, through this date, this time, allow us to be a little bit more intentional about the directed patrols that we send out. So, I do see some cost savings there. I think, as I mentioned with the ABL, which is $4,024, is probably not necessary. And then another option that I think we could consider is the 1 week on-site training for Motorola. We have a lot of experts at the county that are very good, that have been in this Women Conference, that I know would be more than happy to come out and assist us with training, and that would be deputies, that would be Amber. I think we could accomplish that. So if you take away those two, that gets that quote down to $29,950, which is better. Is there any questions?
Sold.
Yeah, I mean,
Sign
we're,
us up. Thanks.
we're pretty good about, whatever makes your life easier. And, I think you hit the nail on the head there by freeing up some of this
Hours and hours.
hours of data entry and being on the streets. I think you're going to win us over every time. But
I have a question. It's Spillman's great. Katie, is there a mechanism so that if there ever is another update to systems through the county, central dispatch, Durango, so that as a, like La Plata County, that we're all on the same page? Because I feel like if the sheriff's office has been using this since
09.
2009 or 16,
9.
like, think about, I wish that there would have been some way that we would have been doing that then versus having to do all of this extra work. And so, I don't know, I don't know how the law enforcements all have inner conversations with each other within the county or within the region, but I think this could have been something really beneficial even before 2022 to maybe even implement in 2023 for our marshals to not be, and for dispatch not to have to repeat themselves. And it just seems like it's an opportunity that we don't want to miss again in the future if if the sheriff's office is doing something that would benefit the marshal's office. We should be lock and step.
I think there's a really good reason that there's only 2 agencies in this area that are using e-force, which is what you're using now. So I don't know why that decision was made. But talking to our county IT, we would be on the county's network. So any updates that would come through Spillman, if we were to go this route, we would receive those updates.
And we do have some deputies. I mean, does this sound
Better.
inviting to you? Exciting? Better?
We need Cat.
Okay.
It's a safety issue there.
I mean, I don't want to take out that mapping. I think that would be important, but I think if you could save some money on getting, if you don't need the training, that would be nice. Do you see a big learning curve there, or is it pretty easy to? Is it going to be 2 weeks of frustration for everybody, or?
Well,
Okay.
you have to spend $18,000 to get our whole system here
Yeah.
updated to some modern standards. But when we talk about updating, I think that in a lot of ways, if you shy away from costs, in Delta County, there's 6 municipalities. 5 of them have, or I should say 4 of them have law enforcement. So at that time, it was hard for some of the smaller communities to consider it. However, when some of the smaller communities did jump on, they realized just how much less time they were actually spending on staff time. And one of the things that we were working on even in the county is getting street
abbreviated correctly, and avenue and names, and I don't know how many times your name has been misspelled, my name has been misspelled, and that can happen really easily. And I do remember that there was also pictures that you would actually see the suspect, and you would see their associates basically come up, so that you weren't guessing that, who that they may be when you show up, maybe at the grocery store in the middle of the day, oh, these are familiar and we have some familiarity. So it's a real safety issue. And when you look at your goals, 24/7 marshal coverage, I don't think you intended that they're doing reports, re-entering reports 7 or 8 times, or just 3 or 4 times. So I think this would be a real benefit to go through this and determine what we really need. But you do need to spend some money to update our system here.
I mean, that's fine. I think this is important. I think I'm sold on.
Yeah, definitely.
I forgot to ask, do I need to recuse myself from this one?
There's no decision being,
No
but yeah,
decision,
probably.
yeah.
Okay.
There could be decision later on.
Wasn't sure if I was allowed to partake in the conversation.
I talked to Josh, who's our IT at the sheriff's office. He said, once the net motion connection, which we were able to get fixed if we were able to increase the capabilities. He said the transition really wouldn't take that long once the paperwork's filled out. It was like it would actually be really quick.
So would this be something we did this year or next in the budget-wise?
Well, I would suggest that you move forward with it this year to actually get it in the system. And of course, you would be budgeting the money for this year. And then there's a second-year maintenance estimate of about $6,600 that you would have to actually budget for 2023. And keep in mind that we've been paying for FirstNet and computers and a lot of data safe time just to figure this out that has gone nowhere. That the links that were assumed never could be made.
So are we canceling a different system for this one that we can recoup some costs from, or where is this coming out of the budget?
This is coming out of the budget.
Where?
Out of the general fund,
Okay.
capital improvements in your reserves.
Okay, so more reserves than anything.
This would be part of all those analysis of the capital improvements for 2023 with the assumption that this is paid for in 2022. And of course, we were told by the representative I talked to that they need to modernize this quote, but they're going to keep the price that we got quoted. I was like, okay, but I don't want to see it go up.
What does that mean?
Well,
Modernize
it's
it.
2021. That's the why they have to
Oh.
modernize it.
Okay.
Oh, gotcha.
to the-
So the annual license and support fee for E-Force is $3,056.92. I would anticipate that maintaining for a year or two while we make the transition so that they still have access to the
Yep.
records. And then I think moving forward, there might be an opportunity to just have access to prior records at a discounted cost, so that we continue to utilize those records.
Is there, when you're talking about the records and having access to prior ones, is there a time frame? And like, I work in baking, and so there's a time frame that we have to have access or be able to recall a record. How long is there like a time frame that you guys are required to like, kind
Once
of have access to it?
An incident report is put into a records management system that's there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think,
I'm not hearing any opposition.
Right.
So your
So
direction
I say
is
we-
proceed ahead and
Yeah.
get
Good.
basically a quote.
Just do it.
Modernize a quote.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, we will move on to our action agenda. Do we have any public input pertaining to items 6A through E on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to the old middle school gym lease.
Well, this is the old middle school gym lease. Let's see, I'm trying to think if this is Dirk Nelson that wrote the original one, but anyway, we are, I think we're finally settled on this lease. We did cut a little bit of money out of this one, $1,100, because we really won't sign it until September, so they did cut out the amount for July and August. But we think this is for 1 year. or I should say until June 30th of next year, and then we'll see if it worked. We've got some keys that have been changed. We want to make sure that other people aren't using the gym and we're cleaning up after them, which has been a real problem. I do need to make you aware that Pine River Shares has been accustomed to using, I remember that it's the e-store. They come in the e-store and then they circulate basically to get food, and they're not happy the fact that they're going to be locked out of there. However, they have not been really good about cleaning up after themselves, and they've destroyed the floor by dragging tables across the gym floor. And keep in mind, the gym floor is really important to our youth sports and the other sporting events and programs that we have going on over there. I think that probably would be helpful is that maybe we just take a look at how it works. We think that they have another option to get in and out. They have access. They have another door on that side of the building. But I'm just a little leery of just allowing them to have access when they have not really been really good about taking care of that gym. So.
I would agree, because, I mean, they could come back at us and make us pay for those.
Well, that's what we have been
flooring.
doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Is Pine River Shares, is that kind of like a sublease or just letting them in? Or is it the school that's letting them in?
Well, from what I understand, it was just letting them in.
Yeah.
And the problem is you let them in and, I think that if there's a good muddy day and they've been farming all day and they come in there or whatever else, and who's going to clean up the, mud? And if they decide that they're going to play basketball while they're waiting in line, I mean, we have no control. And I think what's happened is that we've just spent too much time and money cleaning up after them. So we just maybe observe how it works and give them our suggestions about maybe a different route, a little change. And it's not that we're not compassionate towards that, but we'd like to see some better management on their part.
Yeah, I mean, like, if we're leasing it and we're responsible for it, then the school shouldn't be letting them come in unless
School
there's-
is not. The
So it's
school is
us
very
that's
clear
letting us.
that it's our.
So then.
Well, I think it's
maybe
been
we have a
another problem of
sublease?
too many keys and too many.
So the Pine River Shares from the school district discussion that we had much earlier in May is the fact that Pine River Shares was basically taking over buildings and rooms and hallways and things that they didn't have a lease for, and Leon's trying to clean that up. And so we had the same problem. We had, balls and tables and all kinds of things, food in the gym floor that we had no participation in. So Becky and now Ryan were looking at this going, well, we don't even have a program in here. We've got a mess.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds like it's got some work to do. But yeah, I mean, let's do this for the meantime.
So this agreement will start on September 1st. So so nothing will impact them. It's as if this agreement doesn't exist to them as far as what
I
will
think the
change for
school
them?
already changed locks. I don't
Oh,
think
they
they
did.
have access right now.
Oh, okay.
Right.
That's what I would ask that they require. If they want in, we should let them in.
Oh, the locks have not been.
They've changed the front doors to the gym and to the lobby area, but they haven't changed those side doors yet. And I told Pine River Shares they could have a few weeks to kind of figure out a new system, which that was already a week or two ago.
Okay.
And Rick, with the maintenance director for the school district, said that the lock should be in within the next few weeks. And then they
Okay.
can change them.
But they're aware of. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I would.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the old middle school gym lease.
I second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ah.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right. Do you have to recuse yourself for? the next three.
Yep.
We're gonna let Brenna
Ow, that hurt.
step outside.
Are you B, C, and D?
Yes.
I'll come back for the last one.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to action agenda item 6B.
So this is an IGA that was drafted by the county as a direction from the county sheriff, Sean Smith. And it has been reviewed by our attorney. In fact, they spent a lot of concentrated time on this, and he just asked that when it's signed and executed by the town of Bayfield, I get a copy. So, and this is a great opportunity. I appreciate the sheriff's gift, I should say.
Does the board have any questions or comments, concerns?
No, Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the IGA with La Plata County regarding loaning an employee to Bayfield.
I second that.
All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, resolution 535.
This has been reviewed by Town Attorney Goldman, and I just basically updated his edits, and this is for your consideration.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 535, appointing Brandon Tischer, the interim marshal.
I second that.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
All right, we'll move on to the town marshal recruitment proposals.
So I have three proposals from Columbia LTD, GMP, and then KRW. I have went through these. You have a quote from Columbia, 22,000, GMP is 16,000, and the last one, KRW, for 8,000. The one thing about it is that GMP, they first of all sent us a proposal that had the planning director, and they're going to send out to professionals, to planning directors. So I was a little disappointed that they didn't even review. They didn't even review their proposal to take out, to do a word search and take out planning and put in the marshal. So
They're out.
I know that
Yes, that's an automatic no.
So it's kind of a newer. I know that he's since left another recruiting firm. So I'm not quite ready to go with the middle one from GMP. Columbia is doing everything for us. And then KRW, they talk a lot about in the proposal hiring authority. So it means that's going to be a lot of responsibility on myself as well. I know that all of them are going to get find candidates. I mean, that's typically their goal. So in Columbia, I think you're going to get what you pay for. It's a lot of money. It's $22,000. And KRW is going to probably take a little more time on our part to participate with the recruitment and some of the other identifying items that they have in their proposal.
We've worked with KRW. Kathy, do you have? I felt like they did a good job. I don't know what the complaint would be on staff's side for the extra work component of it.
I don't know. We did work with KRW, but it was it for your position?
Yeah, that was for Katie's hire.
And
Joe's position.
And Joe's position. And I wasn't involved.
Katie, what's the difference in price? I'm sorry.
A lot. $8,000 to $22,000.
Okay, so it could be $8,000 in staff time versus $8,000 in this organization's time. So it would be how much more input do we want to have into the process for that same? I would say it's the money is probably going to balance itself out. So how much do we want to be involved in the process versus they just do everything for us?
So
Like,
you're going to have Columbia LTD is going to come here and actually be here to represent, to have a public, introduction and public meeting, and probably be part of, if you have interview teams, it could be the public interview team, the board of trustees interview team, the marshal's office deputy, there could be an interview team, and then, department directors could be interview teams. So that person is going to be here through all of that. KRW, I'm finding maybe they're going to send one person, we set it up. We have, they may be here for the board and make recommendations, but then they keep talking about hiring authority for, next steps. So they use that term a lot in their review
What does that
or in
mean,
their
hiring
proposal.
authority? You're
Well, the
losing me.
hiring authority means me,
Okay.
Kathy,
Okay.
Rachel,
Uh-huh.
probably, our interim marshal as well, probably be involved as well. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. We would be involved. Columbia is going to be doing a lot of hand-holding, come in here, make sure that, that we're all set up, that we're set up for success. I don't have anything, I am not saying that I, recommending one over the other. I think that the money is hard with Columbia because it is so much money. However, you also want to make sure that you have a good process as well. The process can be just as important as the candidate that you determine. It could be KRW, and they're going to recruit here locally. Both of them are going to recruit here locally. We hope that all three of them would. That there could be a candidate right here that they recruit, and maybe we don't have to have a lot of meetings like you would for a town manager or somebody else. So.
Well, I don't know how it's going to work. I'm assuming it would be very similar. I liked the process. I felt like there was a lot of communication, especially with the board. We got a chance to review all their feedback. I just have a problem with the $22,000. I think that I'm okay with the $8,000 because I've seen their work and seen their process and have been involved in it. And unless there is just some massive opposition from staff, I would feel very comfortable moving forward with KRW. That's just my thought on that.
I guess it would just determine on what's staff's capacity to be involved in this process.
Well, it is budget season.
Yeah.
So, we're going to have to share a lot of this responsibility between Kathy and Rachel, and the marshal's office has to be really involved. Taking a look at the job description. There's all kinds of things that we're going to have to meet on. And I'm sorry, Brandon, I haven't really talked to you about this, but your time probably would be also important in that, so.
But I feel like that would probably be a factor with the other agency as well. I feel like all of that is going to be a part of it. So I just would rather save that money but I know the I know the
Yeah, I don't think
importance
that KRW
of
is not going to do a good
having
job.
a recruiter, so. So I don't know.
I'm leaning towards them too.
I think with our community, I understand the time constraints, but also the interaction, and for the price difference, I just feel like I'm leaning with them too.
So do you need direction or?
I would like a motion.
A
So
motion.
that you're making that decision. And
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to retain KRW for the town marshal recruitment process.
Sure, I'll second that motion.
You have to say, you can say so moved.
So moved.
Okay.
You can have the motion, I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment or discussion on that? Roll call.
Trustee Aw.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
Okay, we can let Brenna back in now.
Where's this one?
It is page 139.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to resolution 536.
So 536, before you, you have the 2022 Development Impact Review. And I do like to see these types of review matters, especially with utilities, be adopted resolution. They're much easier to find. It took me a while to find the 2018 a water master plan, of course, in the rate study. There's all these things. And typically, if you adopt them by resolution, they're much easier to locate. But I do believe that it's important for you to acknowledge that we've had a consultant do the study on storage, and you'll see that we have to do some improvements. I don't know, Jeremy, if you'd like to address any of the capital improvements we have coming per the developments.
Well, we don't necessarily have any capital improvements coming from developments.
The water tank and the.
I'm not exactly sure, so anyway. Basically, the capital improvements that we have slated right now are typically in sewer, but if you look at the last page of the study that went through, what we did is we had Plummer and Associates take all the potential developments. We went ahead and divided those in. You're going to see a lot of them say EU. They're going to say 118 EUs, 44 EUs. That's the equivalent unit. So that came up with an industry standard that they use for a single-family residential home. We had them take those, divide them into the population, and basically address our storage for full build-out. So if you see the east intersection, all the developments you have on that final page of the map, those have all been quantified, and then on page, I don't know what page this is, the second to last page of the summary, they came up with some trigger points that we need to keep in mind as we start building out. So if you'll see what the recommendation is for the Highlands tanks, 250,000 gallons, they're saying at full build out of the east intersection, we'll need to double that storage capacity. So we'll need another 250,000 gallon tank on top of the hill. Now, if you look at the middle tanks, currently we have 1.75 million gallons of storage there. When that goes in, you're gonna need another 1.5 million gallons of storage by the time you build all of these subdivisions out at 880 more houses. But what they did is gave us some trigger points. So for the middle tanks, you're looking at build out for that trigger point is adding approximately 400 single-family homes to the town of Bayfield before you're going to see some of those capital improvements of the tank inspections. And then they're also talking about for the Highlands tank, adding another 115 EUs. So you're looking at the upper half of the East Bayfield intersection development. We add another 30 units to that. You're really going to need to start looking at planning and construction for those. So with the economy the way that it is right now, I'm not exactly sure how fast we'll develop. But those are some pretty important numbers for us and Nicole as well to keep in mind as these developments do come in to make sure that we're scheduling and planning that expansion of the storage appropriately.
I feel like that's come up a couple times. Like, what is the point where we have
Where
to
we
say
need more,
this
yep.
is
Yeah, and this is only for residential, correct? Because couldn't we, I mean, I'm always hopeful at some point in the future there'll be a Costco somewhere in that plan. So if there's,
If only.
is that included in here?
Or what was the Haga Bayfield property? That
Mhm.
factors commercial in as well.
Okay.
So we had Plummer perform the calculations for
Okay.
commercial,
Mhm.
and those are all put into the development parcels in a single equivalent unit that they broke those down.
Okay.
And you see Marlin Village, the tiny home village.
I'm just
is
saying, we might need to
0.75
up that.
equivalent units
Okay.
versus a single family house. So he went and did all those conversions. And then with the developments we have coming up in the future, this is the recommendation for storage and the trigger points and when we really need to think about building this.
We need to grow 100 times the size.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
gypsum. I had this conversation with the former mayor at one point. I guess I'm glad to have triggers for when we will need more water storage. I think what I would love to see our triggers for, and I know we've talked about this with, when we could pay more for our water and water rates, but I think I'm more concerned with, what if there is no water for us to store versus storing the water that we currently have? Because I think that we are going to, we're not gonna run out of water based on our storage capacity. We're gonna run out of water because there's not gonna be water in the Vallecito. There's not gonna be water coming out of the river. There's not gonna be that.
Keep in mind is we'll be the last ones to run out of water in our state. So you're gonna see it start coming from the south up this way. So all that water that determines Lake Powell, Lake Mead, I know there's a lot of doom and gloom stuff that people are reading with global warming, climate change, all those things. None of those other facilities can exist without headwater states like our basin. And so in that aspect, those are some of the things we can't control. What we can control is development, timing, and storage, and appropriate planning for the town moving into the future, and that's what this report will provide.
No, I think it's great. I think we have been talking about wanting to know what the triggers are for when we're going to have to do those types of things. So I'm really grateful to have this report, so thank you.
Yeah, these are awesome.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Jeremy. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 536 regarding the 2022 Development Impact Review and acknowledged formally as an appendix to the 2018 Water Master Plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Awe.
Yay.
Trustee Dallison.
Yes.
Trustee Harts.
Yes.
Trustee Luke.
Yes.
Trustee Moreland.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Yes.
All in favor.
Okay, keep in mind your upcoming meetings. If anybody would like to attend the Economic Summit, please let us know. Okay, we add Brenda.
I have Brenda, Alexis, and Ashley. And I don't mind registering you, just paying for it, so.
No, I have a free ticket.
You have a free ticket? Anybody else? No, okay.
No.
All right. So Alexis and Brenda, I'll get you registered.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And unless there's any,
I actually have an update, I think, and I just wanted to make sure it was on, because I haven't heard anything about I got an invitation from Upper Pine, not on the call, about an active shooter drill with the Bayfield High School on Friday, October 28th. Is that on our radar?
It wasn't until last Friday.
Okay,
It is now.
okay. Yeah, I got an invitation from my day job for that, and I was like, oh, interesting, because we had been talking about our emergency operations plan and those things, and I just wanted to make sure that as your liaison for emergency preparedness, that was somewhere on someone's calendar.
I didn't know.
Okay.
okay. I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. It is 8:47.
That would have been a late one with that public
Oh,
hearing.
oh my
gosh, yes, it would've.
It's on the 21st. At the Skyute Casino. It will send you like an email.
Don't eat breakfast, they usually have
Yeah, they have like a great breakfast there and a great lunch.